So welcome everyone for our weekly connection. You should know that rarely am I spending too much time selecting the topic that we are going to speak about, because I'm one of those that believe that when we want to receive a message, we open the Zohar and here you go, that's what you needed to hear. So I'm really trying to make an effort not to throw any interpretation why we need to talk about what I'm going to share, but I guess something's got to give. So let's see where he takes us. All right. Is Ellen with us? Yes.
Yes.
All right. Enjoy the reading.
You're welcome. Oi. Okay. This section addresses the sin which we're told defiles man most in the world and in the world to come, masturbation. This judgment is not based upon moral or ethical principles, but rather upon the metaphysical structure of the upper worlds. The dark forces that challenge us throughout our spiritual development derive their strength and sustenance from the light they steal from us. Thus, when we react or behave with intolerance towards others, the light we lose strengthens the evil inclination. Masturbation is condemned for the simple reason that a man's seed is the substance that is closest in form to the light of the Creator. It is raw, naked energy, and therefore requires concealment when it is revealed in our physical world. This concealment takes place when a man's seed is used for the direct purpose of creating life. Moreover, sexual relations between a man and wife express the ultimate in sharing with both parties, imparting pleasure to one another. In this loving and protected environment, the light and power of a man's sperm cannot be appropriated or defiled by the evil inclination. The spilling of a man's seed is an act that is done for immediate self-gratification. Consequently, negative forces immediately appropriate this light, and our lives grow a little bit darker. Hardships and misfortunes in life, whether emotional, financial, marital, or otherwise, result from a lack of spiritual light. We also learn of the great rewards in the world to come for a man who has trained his children to draw close to God and live by the spiritual wisdom of Torah.
All right, keep going.
When a man refrains from pleasuring himself through the wanton spilling of his seed, I hope this is nobody's first class, his spiritual life force grows increasingly stronger. This manifests in many ways, including more intense sexual desire for his mate and greater emotional stability and inner peace. The light of this passage helps to cleanse and eradicate the dark forces that attach to us as a result of our sexually self-gratifying actions. This light helps us to recognize the spiritual benefits associated with directing our carnal desires towards sharing pleasure with our mate and drawing the light of the Creator into this darkened world.
וירא בעיני השם אשר עשה, וימת גם אותו. רבי חייא פתח בבוקר, זרע את זרעך, ולערב אל תנח ידך וגומר, תחזה כמה יתחזה לברנש. להזדהרה מחובוי, ולהזדהרה בעובדוי כמי קודשה ברכו. בגין דחמה שליחן וחמה ממנן, אינון בעלמא דאינון נזלין ושייטן, וחמאן ובדהון דבני נשה, וסהרין אלוי וחולה בספרה כתיבין. I'll continue the second verse. ותחזה בכל אינון חובין, דהסתאב בהו, ברנש באי אלמה, דאיהו חובה דהסתאב בברנש, יתיר באי אלמה. ובאלמה דעתי מן דאושיד, זרעה ברקניה, ואפק זרעה למגנה בידה, או ברגלה והסתאב כמה דעות אמר, כי לא אל חפץ רשע, אתה לא יגורך רע. All right, please go ahead.
You have to pull the page up a little. I can only see one sentence. It was come and behold, but now it's gone.
And the thing, can you see this?
182. Oh, okay. I was looking underneath it. And the thing which he did displeased Hashem, so he slew him also. Rabbi Hia opened the discussion with the verse, in the morning sow your seed, and in the evening do not withhold your hand. Come and behold, it behooves man much to be careless lest he sin, and to be heedful in his actions before the Holy One, blessed be he. For there are numerous messengers and chieftains in the world who roam about, observing the deeds of man and bearing testimony of him, recording everything in a book.
Okay.
Come and behold all of the sins that defile a man in this world. That which defiles him the most in this world and in the world to come is spilling his semen in vain. Let it out in vain by the hand or leg brings impurity on man, as it is written. For you are not an El that has pleasure in wickedness, nor shall evil dwell within, nor shall evil dwell with you.
Okay, bless you. Okay, so I mean, there is so much that can be mentioned about those couple of verses. There are so many directions that this text can be interpreted. The first thing that comes to my mind when we're talking about those things that are precepts that you will find in more or less religious interpretation in the Zohar, in the Midrash, in the Torah, where whatever is considered as a sin, likely it is followed by stoning and death and all sorts of things like that. But what is the message really for us? Is it like, what is the takeaways about masturbation? Maybe on a certain level, but rarely it is to be taken literally. And I think that the Zohar a couple of times gave us the hint of what we're talking about here, and that is maybe a missed opportunity of recognizing the potential to reveal light, or the potential of not losing light or recognizing those opportunities. And the first story that came to my mind is, this little kid that was walking in the street and not understanding much of the world yet, and he sees like this pretty rock, and he picks it up and he plays with it and whatnot. And then you have like an adult, a man that walks behind him, and he's an expert in rocks. More so, he can recognize precious stones and precious metals, and he can even recognize a diamond in a rough, or he can recognize all sorts of things like that. And he sees that this kid that understands nothing about life yet is playing with a diamond in a rough, and it is basically a rock, and he's just like following him around until discreetly and hoping and praying that this kid is going to get tired with his stone and he's going to throw it away. And eventually and ultimately that this is what happened. The kid finished playing with that stone and threw it away, and hold and behold, this man, this adult, this expert in metals and whatnot, picked up that rock, and sure enough, it was a 5 or 7 carat diamond, and it made his day, probably even made his month. But you basically got the idea of the story. Now, what is the relevance and what is the connection with what we're reading right now? So when we are making reference to the diamond is our soul, and the rock is basically all the layers of ignorance, of lack of knowledge, lack of understanding, wisdom that we haven't achieved yet. The same as this child that is innocent, that is naive, does not recognize an opportunity that could, just make him rich. And this man who is like more experienced and lived much longer and has more understanding and wisdom and expertise, recognize that this is a great opportunity where the kid doesn't. And so when we are reactive and when our consciousness is low, this is the kid that is in us that is basically, looking at all these diamonds in the rough and only see stones. And the person who work on himself herself and ventures in doing spiritual work and increasing the amount of wisdom, they recognize those opportunities as being, what they are. This is potentially a diamond that is to be revealed in my life, to be revealed for the world, and I cannot miss this. And so a spiritual individual is somebody that is being triggered and is not reacting because he realizes that this is an opportunity to restrict, to reveal light, to draw himself or herself closer to the light force of the Creator, and sees in this challenge an opportunity. And most of us, when we get reactive, and how do we know that we're not yet advanced student of spirituality, is that we're still getting reactive, we're still judgmental, we're still, jumping too quickly to conclusion, and maybe even hurting other people's feelings on the way. And so, I mean, just by what I described, I'm probably level Kabbalah 1 in life, at least. This is how I see it. Why? Because I'm still getting, worked up, aggravated, upset, judgmental, and all the above. As much as I'd like to call myself a spiritual individual, I am this kid, this child that is walking in the street and is playing with these pretty rocks, but doesn't see the opportunity, doesn't see the diamond. And so, for individuals that are so focused or so, what's the word? So busy in the life with the 1% reality, like us, basically, are the people that are wasting these chances to reveal light and to get closer to the light force of the Creator. When we're talking about in the spiritual realm about masturbation, that can be emotional, it can be spiritual, and it can be intellectual, and it can be all sorts. It's not just the physical act, as we know, when we say this word, that's what pops up in our mind. We understand the biological, physical exercise that people do when they do that. And what the Zohar is telling us, we're talking here on a spiritual realm. Spiritual realm is basically anything that's not the physical act, and that can be an emotional endeavor, or an emotional or an intellectual fall that a person can go. So, for instance, that if you're going to get yourself into an argument with a certain individual and that argument is going to lead nowhere, this is intellectual masturbation. What does it mean? It means that you're just wasting your energy on a situation, individual context that that it's going nowhere. Why? Because in this moment, to be right is superseding anything else. And maybe there is an aspect of feeling a bit powerful in the moment, or demeaning the other individual, or showing the other person that we maybe know better, or so there is the intellectual aspect, there is the emotional aspect, where you have people, and again, it's not us because we are spiritual people, but we can be very abusive in an intellectual or emotional way towards others. Why? Because for that instant, we needed to receive something out of the situation, out of this group of people. And there is actually, I can't remember the word now in Hebrew, but it is a concept where somebody is going to seek, what's the expression? I'm trying to translate it from the Hebrew to the English. But it is basically the concept where you get titles of some sort. And titles doesn't have to be boss or employer or the person in charge or the boss. It doesn't have to be that. That can be somebody who is like, let's just call it like showing off a certain let's say maybe intellect or maybe spirituality or maybe wisdom, showing an individual or a group of people with a lack of humility, where, or at least if there is one person in the group or in the room that feels that, oh my gosh, like this guy is like really flying, how much ego this person, okay, we got it that he understands and he has like all this knowledge and whatnot, but what is he trying to do? Is he trying to make us feel like he knows better? And sort of like this idea that, you know, the way that we would act or the way that we would express ourselves without humility, and sometimes it happens. Why? Because we want to be recognized and we want to have some level of approval and recognition. So, or we want to be loved, or we want this person to notice me. And so I'm going to put on the table like a, you know, like something that's going to add value to me. And this unnatural aspect of drawing the attention because we're adding some level of titles to myself, it's another aspect of instant gratification, because really it leads most of the time, it leads to nowhere that is good, because most of the time the people look at us and they say like, what is this person up to? I know what she's made of, and I know the history and what her experience is and how much she has led and being manager or being responsible and made so much money. As I speak, I get like all these like conversations, you know, like throughout the last years that I've had with people, you know, of people that maybe like they were achieved or had success some 35 years ago. And every time that I'm meeting this specific person, he has to tell me one story, part of his success, that was 40 years ago. So if you listen to it the first time, it might be inspiring. The thing is that when you meet that person, it's the same story over and over again with different angle, different spin maybe, but it's like that spark of a need to feel important, or to feel like this person needs to be regarded as I've achieved more success than you ever did and ever will probably. And you know, I've made all sorts of choices in my life, and I've chosen for the last 20 years to be part of a charitable organization and not to, you know, seek my own, you know, venture in all sorts of things. And I could have. I remember, you know, and I'm playing the disc now, because 20 years ago, a day before, a week before I joined the center as a full-time volunteer. Today, it's not exactly like that, because we're not full-time volunteers anymore. Since 2017, we're receiving a salary. But up to 2017, so for 17 years, I was a full-time volunteer. And it always happens in this way, that a week before making the decision, the guy that was employing me appreciated what I was doing and how I was performing, and he wanted to let me have his business, and I would pay him a dividend or a percentage, you know, at the end of each year, which was great. But at the same time, I've had that opportunity, and not for a split of a second did I hesitate between becoming within a year probably a millionaire, because he was, to perceiving $35 a month. This is what we were getting as a petty cash, you know, back then in 2000, 2001, when I became a chevre. I remember actually when I opened this envelope, and I didn't know what it was. I saw $35 and I was like, is that to reimburse my taxi from coming from? And, you know, there was another chevre in my room and said, no, it's not, you know, to reimburse anything. This is your money for the month. And I started to laugh for 30 minutes, not because I was sad or I was like mocking anything. It just like, you know, was so ridicule that first of all, my first realization was, wow, I really did what I did, made that decision. And that decision wasn't because of the money, obviously. and oftentimes, I make the joke with Rebecca, this is at least one thing that I know for sure: you didn't marry me for the money. But like going back to this guy that every so often is bringing about the need for the title, the need for recognition, is not bringing him anything, adding anything, contributing anything to his life besides giving him a sense of security or a sense of superiority that is not lasting long, because it is lasting as long as he is having maybe a conversation. And it is only lasting in his head because the person opposite is listening to that person, is saying like, what a moron. Why does he have to, to make himself feel so important? And we have these moments with all sorts of people. And sometimes we are this person that maybe because we've had history and because we feel intimidated or we feel inferior and we are insecure, and so we needed to throw something that's gonna lean something towards like my position that makes me feel a little bit more important. So if I go back to what the Zohar is telling us here when Ellen was reading, this judgment is not based upon moral or ethics principles, but rather upon the metaphysical structure of the upper world. The dark forces that challenge us throughout our spiritual development derived their strength and sustenance from light they steal from us. So this is like, in essence, I would say, like I would exaggerate if I would say like the secret of life, but there is something to it. Why? Because in that sentence, it basically tells us how to draw success or how to draw the opposite. I don't want to even like lean or laser target one thing in specific, because for each one of us, success means something different. For one person, it would be like to find the love of your life, and another person is to have like financial security, and another person is to find health, etc., etc. So what is success? It's very relative. But the opposite is pretty much clear and resonates with everybody, because it's the opposite of anything that we want. And that would be the result of what we do, what we say, what we feel, or what we focus on emotionally, spiritually, intellectually, rationally, day in and day out. I catch myself like 100 times a day, like I work at least 12 hours a day doing different things, but I'm a human being, so I need to take breaks every so often, and I have my ways to take breaks to just like disconnect, and so sometimes I'm like distracting myself with like a game on the iPad that's just like switches me off from what I'm doing, so that when I'm going back to it, my mind is totally fresh, or at least like it's like a rebooted basically. But in other ways, like I can also like watch all sorts of like news outlets, and I love information. I'm Gemini, so I love seeking information of all types. I'm a very curious individual, and at the end of the day, like I would draw what resonates with me and whatnot. But sometimes I realize I'm wasting my time and I'm wasting my energy. And I need to stop that. And I need to start, like, there is nothing wrong at taking a break, but I start the feeling of total waste of energy and time when I'm watching something that has the capacity to affect my mind and my soul and my heart and my emotions in a negative way. Even if I have my values and my way of thinking, that I'm leaning towards this way or that way, that I'm watching something political or something that is like happening like in a court of law, something like, I have my opinions. But at the same time, when you're watching like this news channel or that news channel, each one of them, they have like obviously very opposite views about life and about things and about the subject. But each and every single one of them has a fine line that is very easy to be crossed. Meaning that whatever party you are belonging to or aspire to belong to, there is that fine line where it becomes purely judgmental and purely hateful and creating division and create whatever party you are part of, if it's like right, left, a liberal, a Democrat, and Republican, and Canada is the same, the US is the same, in Israel it's exactly the same. And each one of them has, in essence, principles that you can follow and aspire to. But at the same time, each and every single one of them have lines where they're losing, I would say, like a threshold of spirituality, a threshold of humanity and humbleness. And I've watched a couple of things today that usually I wouldn't listen to, and I found like really interesting things, interesting points in what this person had to say. But again, I felt and I saw, the moment that this person crossed the line. And this happens with every single individual, and it also happens with us. And the more we're becoming not only aware, cognizant of where I am crossing that line, where I'm burning spiritual calories, but not in a good sense. I'm burning spiritual calories or spiritual energy where it is avoidable. Where is it that I'm spending my time, my listening, my vision, my attention, my focus, that I can draw that line where I say, okay, I got what I wanted to receive from this act or from this documentary or from this report or this article, but I recognize that this is like the fine line that I don't want to cross, because that's pure judgment, that's pure waste of energy. And wherever I'm going to recognize that waste of light, waste of energy, waste of potential to get me closer to the light force of the Creator, wherever I'm recognizing that, it is going to reveal more blessings in my life. It is going to reveal more assistance in the things that I want to accomplish, So if there are some ills, problems, issues, loneliness, whatever it is how it is going to appear in your life, it is very personal to us. And those are opposite to, let's call it miracles, okay? And so because there are, in effect, practical, physical things that are happening in our lives, it is not to remind us that we have sinned. Because when we think in this way, it's very religious thinking. Religious thinking means that, like if you do this, you'll go to hell. If you do that, everything is going to be okay. This is like literally like a compass that guides us in a direction that tells us, okay, if you steer this way, you're going to fall over. If you steer that way, you're going to fall over. So it's like a very narrow bridge, that takes us from one point to another point, that is evolution, that is growth, that is elevation, that is revelations of all sorts. But that narrow bridge is so easy to fall over. Why? Because whatever you can have the most formidable individual that is right next to you, that person is not perfect. That person at some point is going to have a downtime, and it can be your spouse, it can be your kids, it can be your best friend, it can be your teacher. They can have their best and they can have their worst, and they are our companions in life, and they walk with us in this game of life. Let's just call it this way. But at the end of the day, the one navigator of my life is me, that has the compass, that has that inner compass to tell me I'm collecting all this information, all this data, all this knowledge, and all this wisdom, and that is to help me make better decisions so that I can evolve, so that I can draw more good things into my life. And the more I am in tune and aligned with what is, here the Zohar, says, like if you inspire your kids, like what not, like to be in the path of Hashem and to be in the path of the light, etc., etc. For me, when I listen to this and when it's written in this way, and we have to be very cautious with the interpretation, it can become very religious. Okay, so we have to send our kids to religious school and they have to study Torah, and that this is how most of the Jews would translate that information. But the path of God, the path to the light, has to be something that is driven from within, because nobody can tell us what is right for us, because what is right for you might be totally wrong for me in its application. So this is why if you have like 2 or 3 kids or 5 children, you can't apply the same parenting to all the children. And the same goes with us as children of the Lord, the children of the Creator. The Creator is giving us, each and every single one of us, a specific attention. How do we receive that specific attention? It is that spark of light that is built within our soul. Each one of us comes with a gift, with a talent. Only us came to reveal in this world. What I came to reveal in this world, and God knows what it is. I'm not 100% sure that this is what it is, but only I can reveal what I came to reveal. And each and every single one of us, and each and every single one of you, has a unique spark that you came not only to share, but that you came to reveal. And so that inner compass is extremely important to navigate our life throughout our existence. And the lesson of today is really to activate, maybe to its next level, that inner compass that maybe I'm not even aware that it is there. Maybe I need to practice it more, because you can be like in a simple conversation and there is something inside of you that tells you, wow, I really got tired of this conversation. And there is an inner compass that tells you, or that told you to go 30 minutes ago. And now you're resentful of that meeting. You can't wait to leave, like you're looking at the watch every 5 minutes, but you have that inner clock, you have that inner compass that gave you that direction, that told you, stand up and go, give whatever excuse, whatever reason, because beyond that limit, you're wasting your time, you're wasting your energy. I don't exactly know what it means and if there is something else that is calling you in another place, but I hope that you're getting what I'm saying, because it's not just, that single example that I gave you, but it can be also in a business deal. I've heard countless of times people that are, now it's like a hot topic with real estate, where they went into this house and everything was perfect and everything was great and whatnot, and there was that inner voice that was like a red flag that told them, get the heck out of here. And that person didn't listen to herself. I don't know if I mentioned it the other day. She had the voice, she had the inner feeling, the gut feeling, she had the inner compass that told her, do not close on this house. 6 months, 8 months pass, the children, 3 kids, beautiful kids, the parents, the 2 adults, they cannot sleep. They cannot sleep, they have nightmares and whatnot. To make a long story short, the house is full of mold. They didn't see it in the inspection, whatever the reason is. but she had the inner compass. She knew it. And you know what? She didn't listen to it. And that's like, she's upset with herself because she said, I knew it. And that is for somebody that is spiritual. Somebody who is not spiritual, you cannot expect. They would have the voice, and like 100%, 99% of the times, they would ignore the inner voice. They would ignore their inner voice. They would ignore the inner compass that tells them, who cares about overstepping, right, left, this, that. They're not empathetic to themselves. They're not empathetic to their inner voice, to the diamond that is within them that tells you, your own soul tells you, gives you the direction in every encounter, in every meeting, in every visit of a doctor. I mean, my wife, you know, for most of you, you know my wife, and she went to see like this dentist that was recommended by countless of people in Los Angeles. And he saw the kids, they have cavities, and my wife has cavities, and he recommends her to do all sorts of things. Like, I can't remember if he said like to remove 2 teeth or something like that, something like crazy. And she said, the first thing that she said is, my gut feeling tells me this guy just wanted to make money. And it's probably true. But since then, you know, a little bit of time passed since then, and we went to see a friend here that is a dentist, and he basically brushed off everything that the other dentist said. She did like a deep clean, and whatever, the kids are just fine. Like they needed like to put like some mouthwash or something, and the whole thing was gone. But you would have listened to this guy, she would be like toothless. I don't know if that's the expression. And the kids would have like treatment for cavities and whatnot, but she listened to her inner voice. And that you go to the dentist, that you're about to sign a big contract, that you drive, and there is an inner voice that tells you to ignore the GPS and turn left. It happened to me like a couple weeks ago. I have no clue why I did that. The GPS said to go straight. I said, I'm turning left. My wife is looking at me and she said, GPS said, go straight. And she understood right away. So we have like that inner language, like she has it, I have it. Like I just like needed to listen to that inner voice that was unexplainable. And it was like such a level of intense truth. It just rang truth, just turn left. I'm happy I didn't have to experience whatever would have taken place if I would have driven straight. Now, the message of this evening is very simple. It's not about masturbation. If you want to take it there, enjoy masturbation. So, but the other idea is, and the most important idea is, the more we become recognizant, acknowledge, bring up, raise the red flag that tells us there is a signal, an inner signal that tells me right now to do something that doesn't make sense. Like everything fits perfectly. All you have to do is sign. But your inner voice tells you, do not sign, do not sign. Listen to your inner voice, listen to your inner compass. The more we practice that, and the more we get better at it, but furthermore, the more we walk that spiritual life experience with our thoughts, with our emotions, where we don't give in as much to our reactive nature. So make an effort to become more proactive and to pause and to share when we don't want to. That would contribute, that would enhance our ability to, to have this radar, to have this inner compass that functions better and better. For a person who is living an opposite lifestyle that is not a spiritual one, we could speak for 10 hours crash course about what we just spoke about. The person is just gonna not understand anything. And it's not just that. I had a conversation. My wife and I we had dinner with a couple. The wife is super spiritual, and the husband a little bit more challenged spiritually. And so whatever the wife would understand instantly, one sentence, one concept that was shared at the table, so by the three of us, the person triggered by a migraine that came suddenly because in his mind, it didn't have the capacity to absorb the spiritual concept. And so we have a capacity. We talk about vessel, right? We have a capacity to learn. We have a capacity to study. We have a capacity to listen to all sorts of podcasts. We have a capacity of all sorts of things. So some people spend 12 hours a day on Instagram. There are people that spend 5 hours a day listening to podcasts. All sorts of, different capacity. And to have a capacity to learn spirituality, but spirituality that allows you to evolve in a way that you are igniting and that you are boosting, that you're enhancing that inner compass, is a stretch. And that stretch will be felt physically. If you are walking the spiritual path and everything is so easy and you get it, and what we're talking about is so simple, and I'm an advanced student and I need to learn, the deeper stuff because the deeper stuff gives me a intellectual stimulation. It's not intellectual stimulation, it is intellectual masturbation. Why? Because it gives me pleasure that I learned something that I don't understand a thing, but it made me feel powerful. Wow, that was powerful. But then the next day you want to take it home and to practice it, it's gone into smoke. But if you can take a simple lesson to practice it and to enhance and to expand your spiritual, intellectual, rational, emotional vessel, that is when you grow. That is when you expand, and that is when you enhance that inner compass that the next time that you need it, it's going to raise a red flag. And it's going, even if it's not going to make sense, it's just going to tell you, or it's going to tell you the opposite. Bingo, do that. And you know what? It's just going to feel right. There are certain things that you try and you try and you try this and you try that and nothing works. And suddenly you try this other thing that, it was almost like last resort, and everything falls into place. And I love this because wherever the light is involved, it just falls into place. Wherever the light is not involved and you're not supposed to be, it's just not happening. And you can be everything that is going to befit that situation, that company, that relationship. And for whatever godly reason, it doesn't work out. It's like everything, with the entire plan, the experts, everything is saying it's going to work. And it doesn't work. When it's not supposed to happen in a certain field, just let it go. But there are spiritual people that say, oh, no, but wherever there is resistance, that's where you need to push. That's stupid. Wherever it is flowing, that's where the light is. Now, if you're in a relationship and you're already committed and it's work, relationship, any type of relationship, it's work. There are days that are up and there are days that are down and there are days that you work and you work and you work. It's a lifetime thing. And if it's supposed to break apart and move this way and that way, Don't take the initiative. Let the light, let the universe tell you it's time. And it's going to be so clear. It's going to be so clear. But we want so much to be in control. But when we are in control and we make all the decision, we don't know that we were 100% right. There is always like a voice in the back of our, what if? Maybe I didn't do enough. Maybe I could have done this. And that's because the light, you didn't allow the light to be involved. Barely did you even activate your inner compass. We are reactive people. We're impulsive. We are rushing, jumping to conclusion, because we are result oriented. And that is the whole concept of masturbation is that. That's the whole concept. The opposite of it is just to wait it out. Wait it out. I'm not saying that, again, there are exceptions in every situation, but you're in a situation where it's not flowing and making the decision doesn't feel right, and making that decision, it's not time. There is still a lesson to be learned. There is still something that needs to fall into place, and when it does, it's just going to be like, ta-da! And it's really going to feel like that. Anyways, any questions, comments?
This just feels so important. And I guess, you live your life and you have a certain way of thinking about things or navigating, and there's nobody who can really answer the questions except something like this and someone like you that actually is translating these things that you question in your life. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I just keep, as you were talking, I was thinking about circumstances during all kinds of years in my life. And you have these inner thoughts. You question, the situations where maybe you're sitting with somebody and it's a hamster wheel. It doesn't matter what you say. So you decide not to say it. But I've never heard anybody talk about that situation. And I'm thinking to myself, now it's wasteful energy to go there. And so in that situation, if you choose not to say something, then I'm thinking, is that restriction? Is that repression? Does it really matter? It's a waste of energy. I'm curious what that would be in a situation like that, if you recognize that it's not going to be a fruitful thing to share a thought. But just, I don't know. I need to listen to this a number of times, but I thank you for the multiple lessons that were a part of tonight and every class. But this just feels like, I don't know, just a life lesson that's going to hopefully serve all of us for a lot of things. Didn't feel that way in the first few paragraphs, but I see where you're going. So thank you. And just thank you for everything. It's Thanksgiving. It doesn't have to be, but I don't have words for who you are to me in my life. So that's it. That's my comment.
Okay, I appreciate it. And I appreciate all of you. If you're in Canada, you've already done your Thanksgiving, no? Yeah. So for all the Americans, if you are celebrating happy Thanksgiving, I'm going to be at my sister with like 15 other people, which is great. A lot of them are going to be very interesting people, like an expert in hypnotherapy. There is a guy who is a teacher of the miracle course. like, like a very interesting people. I can't wait to be there. It's really something that we needed to look forward to enrich ourselves, not only with encounters, but also with knowledge and information and wisdom. And at the end of all that, I think that the most important is what you decide, to take a bit from this and a bit from that, because certainly what you're going to let influence you is what is going to shape you for what you're going to be or what you're becoming. And sometimes I criticize my wife. Doesn't happen very often, just once in a blue moon, where she's letting herself being influenced by this speech or that conversation or this conversation. But at the end of the day, we are all doing this. And if anything, I am looking for inspiration in the least expected places. Like I'm listening to something that is not spiritual at all, and I'm getting out of it one of the most revealing lessons that I've had on that specific day. You can receive, you can draw a spiritual lesson that's going to represent change in your life from the least expected places. So again, this is very typical for, or I would say selective to each and every single one of us. What is inspiring you to become a better person? And at the end of the day, what is the projection of a better person as you? If you are projecting yourself like, what is a better me looking like, acting like, thinking like, speaking like? And once you get like, at least like in the shape, in the horizon of what it looks like, maybe you're going to start drawing encounters, conversations, things that you're going to watch or listen to, and you'll get messages from the weirdest places. A show that you're watching, a movie that you're going to see with your kids, or a conversation while you're having coffee, or like you walk in the street and you almost like like eat the snow. It's snow time, and there is like right there, you would have missed it, but there is right there like a piece of paper, like a torn piece of journal that you're reading because your face is right there, and it's a message. And so we want to activate that synchronicity, because you understand the word synchronicity of life, synchronicity that exists with the universe and with God. What is going to be I can't wait for, I should say, I can't wait for the next hour, because we get lessons all the time, but I can't wait for Thursday to learn something new. If we don't have that thirst to learn more, to grow more, it's not going to happen. And, again, it was like one of those moments that I took like 3 minutes break. And there is this guy who was like in the Shark Tank that I think is super arrogant. And I can't stand the person because of how he communicates and how he takes down the people that are coming to present or whatever. And you know what? I said, I'm going to listen to him. Maybe he's going to have something that is going to resonate. And it did have something that resonated with me. It did. In that moment, like when you have something that resonates, you feel that you have evolved. You feel that you just grew a mile along because of this one concept, because it opens like a gate. It opens a door that it was there, but it was closed. It was shut. And maybe it was like so small in the way that, but it was so big. And so do not underestimate where the messages are coming from. But again, if you do not have that thirst, it's not going to come. And if your cup is full, it's not going to come. And so this is why we want to entertain, we want to keep this alive, our thirst and our desire to learn and to grow. And it's just going to show in mysterious ways or in ways that are very, very clear. Anyway, thank you very much. And not thank you just because you joined this evening. Thank you for also being in my life and allow me to continue doing what I'm doing. And I don't know why it sounds like, like my last class. It's not my last class. Anyway, thank you very much. And I'll see you next week, God willing. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you and
you, Yehuda.
enjoy.
Thank you.